One of the things that I really enjoyed learning about and getting into is the concept of productivity and efficiency. I like doing a whole bunch of different types of things. So, one of the things that I had to learn was to be able to use my time wisely and use my time effectively, but also learn how to actually manage my energy so that when I am using my time wisely, I can actually have the energy to do all the things I want to do. So just a couple of, I guess, like tips and tricks um, that I learned. Number one, Pomodoro's technique. Um, I always used to think that like breaks were pointless and useless because instead of taking like a 15-minute break, I could be using that 15 minutes to get a little bit more work done. Um, but ended up learning about Pomodoro's technique, which is backed by a lot of research. And essentially, it's a method in which you use 25 minutes for like focused work, and then you take a 5 minute break. Do that again for like a couple more times, and then take a little bit of a longer break, so like 15, 30 minute break, and then get back to it. And that gives your mind time to process what you just went through, as well as rest up, which is then going to increase your productivity after, as opposed to you just going like straight through it. Same thing, kind of like with a workout. You're not just about to crank out a workout back to back to back to back to back to back. You need to take breaks so that your body and your muscles can recover. Um, Secondly, time blocking. Time blocking is a whole nother thing, which is essentially when you're planning out your day or you're mapping out what you want to do in a day, being able to block out times on your calendar for specific tasks. Um, and the more specific you get, usually the more better. But one of the things that I learned for me is that I like having the flexibility to choose what I'm doing. So I usually just have like deep work focused on like a business that I have, or based on like studying. Um, but I also try and get more specific into what am I actually going to do while I study? Am I going to go through the PowerPoints? Am I going to read through the notes? Am I going to try and draw out something? Am I doing like something on my own? Am I doing stuff in a group? But all those little like mini specific things, you can figure out what works best for you. But having some sort of intention and setting the intention about what you're going to do in blocks of time is very beneficial when trying to plan things out in a day. You can make that as specific as you want or non-specific as you want, depending on where it works for you. And then the last thing I would say is working in groups. Um, Even if you're not working on the same thing in a group, it's still beneficial to work in a group, or at least in a setting where other people are also working on something or focused on something, just so that your mind is getting kind of like spurred on by everybody else doing the same thing, if that makes sense. Like by proxy, you're going to be more inclined to do the work because everybody else around you is doing the work as well. Um, so using that for work on business or even studying, especially when it comes to studying, being able to work on stuff in groups and talk through different ideas, talk through what you're learning. All those different types of things are really beneficial when it comes to being motivated to study, but also when it comes to understanding the material when you're studying. Same thing goes with business. Being able to talk through it and get other people's perspectives on the business concepts that you're working on is also very beneficial, um, to make sure that there aren't any gaps in your thought process.